Oh my. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name's Frank and I collect antique equipment like this Michigan cable shovel behind me. So a few weeks ago, Sam and I were out at Steamer-Rama running the new Lima he moved. And we also hit Gerhardt's show, and I bought this machine off of Gerhardt's. This is a 3/8 yard Michigan AM tractor shovel. This is a pretty rare machine. This is the only one I know about. There's other tractor shovels, like a Bay City Pup, Austin Western, Badger, Wilford, stuff like that. Inslee, Model C, which you can see that are a lot more common. So what we have here is a Allis-Chalmers Model U tractor. So it's the engine, the transmission, and the rear end. The engine is a Continental S10 that powers this. From what I've researched, they weren't a very good engine, so Allis-Chalmers didn't use them very long. And then a lot of the Model U tractors were repowered with the later engine. I forget what that is, but this engine's stuck. I haven't tried to get it free yet, but the oil looks decent. See the mag and the water pump and manifolds on this side. So the brochures I show this machine being hydraulic control, and I kind of think it might have been air control straight from the factory. So under this cover, I could probably see it better from the other side, but we have an air compressor, and this supplies air to this small air tank that's down here, and then that's what operates the various clutches on this. So we'll start with the tractor side of it, and they keep the master clutch like a tractor would. So you still have a foot pedal, but it looks like what would have been here would be an air cylinder, similar to like what's on here for the brakes, and you'd be able to sit in the operator's seat and run this middle control, which would be the clutch to engage and disengage it. And then these outer two levers would be the steering, which is operated by these air cylinders mounted on the frame, which run a drum brake where the tire would be mounted. And then they put a sprocket on here to drive the tracks. And then they've locked out all the gears in the transmission except for, looks like, first and reverse. And then the PTO is engaged down here. So this machine's designed to be run all from the operator's seat up on top of the house. You would reach down, you can run the clutch and the brakes, grab the shifter and the PTO. As long as you have this house swung into the correct spot, you should be able to reach anything. Now the controls to operate the shovel are all up here on the operator's station. So you've got a crowd brake and a hoist brake like any other shovel, and they're mechanical, no air to them. And then you've got your swing, your crowd and retract, and then your hoist. And then what I think is over to the side here, this is an air operated house lock, so that you could lock the house while you're traveling. There's copper air lines going down to the various clutches. Down here, these are your reversing shaft clutches, which would do your swing. So there's one on each side, and air comes up into this here. I'm not sure what's inside of here yet. I have not taken one apart, and it pushes on this ring down in here, which then pushes on 3 fingers, which apply clutch disc. And then in the middle is the bevel gears, which would swing the machine either way. Now, power is applied to this house through this PTO. It runs a chain coupling to a shaft, and then it comes up into this bevel gear. And this is what powers all the drawworks up top. This cylinder would be for the swing brake or house lock, whatever it is, and it pushes this rod, which is underneath, and it looks like it applies a brake to that bevel gear. This is a manual house lock. This dogs into the ring gear. You just crank this in and out. That does work. I have been using it. On this side of the machine, you can see there's a big chain that runs the 3 shafts. So you've got your reversing shaft in the back. The front would be the crowd. Well, I should say part of the crowd, and the upper shaft is your hoist. Now this on the end, so this is driving all that. Then there's these 2 bevel gears here which operate this worm, and this is your boom hoist. So this is just the jaw clutch that slides in and out. So that's how you would engage your raise and lower functions, which are run off that drum right down there. That's your boom hoist cable. And this is your hoist clutch and your hoist drum. And then the crowd is run by, there's your crowd brake, and there's your hoist brake up here. And then your crowd is, you got 1 clutch over here and 1 clutch over here to run your crowd, which works back and forth through these chains. And then you have a long chain that goes out to what they call the shipper shaft, which is mounted on the boom, and that runs the gears that mesh with the rack on the stick. Now to release the bucket, there's a latch that's closed by gravity. When it slams into the bottom, it lifts this bar up, slides in, and then drops down. Now, most machines have a powered bucket trip. This machine, what you have is some wire rope wrapped around this drum. It goes down through this little shiv and then attached at the bucket. and that runs with the shipper shaft, so that controls the slack in the cable out to there. Now from this point here up to the operator would be a piece of rope, so you would yank the rope and that would pull on the cable, which would release the latch. This is quite an old machine. It's riveted. It's from the very late 20s or early 30s. What's unique about this machine, and for most tractor shovels, is that it spins 360 degrees. So in the marketing brochures, they show this machine loading a dump truck parked in front of it. It's also one of the first zero tail swing machines as well. So there's no overhang when this machine is swinging around. What's very unique to this machine is the air controls and the 360 swing for as old as it is. Done some work already, which I'll show in the upcoming few clips here. I got the crowd freed up and all the drawworks turning. I've gotten both tracks free. Next, I want to pull the head off the engine and see if I can try to get that unstuck. If anybody happens to know about another one of these, I'd love to any information on it. Again, this is a Michigan Model AM, serial number 161. I'd also be interested in another power unit. Again, this is an Allis-Chalmers Model U with a Continental S10 engine. I'll have to get some drive chains on this. The machine didn't come with any. So you just have a chain going from the sprocket on the tractor rear end to a sprocket down on the track frame. And that's what usually drives these machines. We loaded this machine on Sam's Lowboy with an 80D crane. I think he's got some footage of that. I have one small clip of it getting picked up in the air like 6 inches. Well, I'll add that in here. So if this kind of stuff interests you, got a couple other Lima. These are both 34s. Got some videos on getting this yellow one out of a coal mine. The red one behind it that came out of New York State. We got some clam buckets and dragline buckets over here. New old stock 15B shovel front and Bantam shovel front. Our 73 Diamond Rio. Inslee K12 shovel. This was my first shovel. Did a lot of work to the boom on this. So I've got some videos of putting bushings in the shivs and welding up all the gear teeth on this stick. Did quite a bit of work. It needs some more. I got another Cat engine I'd like to repower this with. It'd make it a real nice machine. There's a couple 10Bs down closer to the house and a Lima 24, which is a pretty rare machine, and then we got the Hi-Ho sitting over there. For the rest of the truck guys, we got the auto car we got to get back on, and 84 Diamond Rio Giant, and nobody's really seen that yet. That's a Case 350 4-in-1 that needs some hydraulic work. Anyway, let's get back to work on this old shovel. So that track wasn't really frozen at all. It's this rear sprocket that's stiff. So I'm gonna loosen up all 6 of these bolts and then pump some grease in here and see if I could spin it with a strap through the sprocket and the excavator maybe. So we got the rear sprocket freed up, greased the whole undercarriage on this side. Looks like there's a Babbitt bearing in here maybe. And I broke off, well, the hole stripped out for a couple of these studs down in the bottom, so I'll have to address that. But for right now, we just need to make the machine so that we can move it. So I'm going to drag the track back underneath and put it together again. It looks like our idlers are off a little bit on top here, so I think we'll have to try to pull them back in line. So I've already run into my first issue. While I got the whole track free, rear sprocket and front idler turning, these things are banjo string tight and I can't get the pin back in. I'm out of adjustment on the front idler coming back. We're out of adjustment on the rear sprocket. So for now I just drove a pin in that's about half the size. I think they might have pulled a pad out of the chain. So I'm going to count the pads on this side and count the pads on that side, but they might have did the same on either end. If that's the case, I'm probably going to have to make a pad, because finding any parts for this machine is probably going to be next to impossible. This is the only one I know. So as you can see here, we're all the way back. We're out of adjustment. Idlers against the frame. And this I-beam here is also against the front of this adjustment. So we can't do anything here. And we can't do anything here. So I had the forklift and the excavator on this. And as you can see, it's not working out. So we got the tracks apart on the left side of the machine. These are a little bit stiffer. You know, come over on this side with the forklift and the Mini and pull the track off. See if we can throw it around a little bit and get loosened up. We got the whole side of the machine picked up with the forklift. So this is a 10-ton machine and that's an 8,000 pound capacity forklift, and it's picking it up all right. Now we're going to drag the track out from underneath with the Mini, and we're going to shake it around a little bit, see if we can get all these pins to free up. So I think if we just grease everything on the undercarriage on this side, we'll be in pretty good shape. So I'm trying to get the input shaft off the PTO to spin, and I backed off all the clutches, but I'm still having some trouble. I'm going to take this chain off. The input shaft comes up to a bevel gear in the middle. It drives this shaft here, and then this chain transfers it to the crowd drum, the retract, and the swingers. So first I thought the swingers were froze, but it might be the crowd also, or it might be all of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into smaller sections. Start with this input, and then I'll work out to the other shafts. Surprisingly, the link on this chain still had oil on it. So who knows how long this thing's been sitting, but that's a good sign to see. right. Ow! So that crowd clutch is dragging a little bit. I think this is the adjustment here that I wasn't able to get from down below. So I'm going to back that off and try turning this again. So we got the crowd free, the chains are all moving, the crowd brake is released. We cleaned some of this debris out of here. I'll put this chain back on. Look at that. That never happened. So the next step on this Michigan that I want to try to attack is getting this engine free. Start by removing this little piece of sheet metal, the fuel tank, the air cleaner, and then pull the head off and see how bad the cylinders actually are. Maybe we can get this thing to turn over. Hope these just break. No, how do they move? There's no threads. Yep, this one's breaking off. This oil bath air cleaner is coming right off. There might be never sees on that. Oh my. So here's what we got. A little crusty. So you'll have to check back in the next video to see what we end up doing. Ugh. Our new lowboy truck's on the road.